Silence is the weapon that cripples your enemies because it denies them the roadmap to your next move. That feeling of shock, that unsettling pressure they sense, is the force of your unannounced strategy hitting them right now. They were comfortable when you were giving them information, when you were talking, debating, and defending, but their true fear ignites the moment your voice is absent and your intentions are shielded behind an impregnable wall of quiet. This is not the silence of retreat or exhaustion. It's a palpable, assertive quiet that dominates the space, like a fortress they cannot breach. They know instinctively that whatever you are building within those silent walls is formidable and no longer something they can safely ignore. Picture a busy marketplace, loud with negotiations and casual chatter, and then, without any signal, a single, dominant vendor falls completely silent. The immediate, jarring sensation is universally felt. The entire atmosphere subtly but fundamentally changes. It's like watching a movie suddenly switch to slow motion right before a pivotal event. Our instincts are hardwired to register this shift. Evolutionary science suggests our brains prioritize and react to sudden quiet over sudden noise, because silence often signals a more profound, deliberate change, a hunter watching, a movement hidden. Your quiet withdrawal didn't just remove you from the scene, it activated their deepest, most primal survival mechanisms. You've become the unknown factor they are compelled to obsessively monitor. Your silence is the unforgiving spotlight that illuminates their own inadequacy. And to you, the chosen one, thank you for recognizing the resonance of this message. Don't let this powerful truth stop here. Pay it forward by simply tapping that like button and subscribing. This is how we ensure this guiding light reaches more souls who need to claim their quiet power. It is our collective duty to amplify the light in a world saturated with noise. Thank you for becoming an essential part of this crucial mission. You are now a vital element of a silent, powerful force, a current moving deep beneath the surface, reshaping the landscape with every intentional step you take. Now, let's analyze the true weight of what you're currently projecting. Your recent quietude is not merely a sign of weariness or an emotional shutdown. It possesses a distinct, potent gravity. This is the calculated quiet that settles over a landscape immediately before an enormous storm breaks. The physical environment may appear unchanged. The sky is a familiar shade of gray, but the natural rhythm is disturbed. The air is unnervingly still, the animals have retreated, and the very foliage seems to be holding its breath. This is the exact controlled energy you are carrying right now, absolute composure externally, profound and focused calculation internally. Everyone who has ever made the mistake of underestimating you is finally feeling the unsettling truth of your depth. You have made the strategic decision to cease broadcasting your intentions. The constant stream of updates has been cut off. You are no longer justifying or explaining your actions, your progress, or your motivations to anyone. You effectively filtered out all the surrounding noise. By cutting the noise, you irrevocably severed their access to your narrative. This is the core reason for their current distress. They relied on feeling like they always understood your position and could anticipate your next action. That certainty is gone. They have no idea if you are merely a few steps ahead of them or if you have soared completely beyond their reach. They don't know if your project is completed or if you are quietly amassing resources for a move far greater than they can imagine. Their own minds are now forced to frantically construct the scenarios for you, attempting to fill the void your silence created. And ironically, the possibilities they are conjuring up cast you in a role far more dominant and powerful than any you ever explicitly claimed. Initially, a few misguided individuals interpreted your silence as a sign of retreat or weakness. They assumed you had exhausted your arguments, run out of fight, or simply given up. But silence is fundamentally not weakness. Silence is a dedicated strategy. Silence embodies profound focus. Silence is the resource of those who have decided they are done squandering their finite energy on irrelevant noise. The instant they realized your quietness was not the result of a collapse, but the undeniable evidence of an upgrade, that is the very moment true apprehension settled deep in their core. Because a person who chooses silence is a person who has taken back all their control. Reflect on the observable patterns of the natural world. Generally, the creatures that make the most noise are the ones that pose the least threat. The birds loudly signal their movements before taking flight. Smaller, vulnerable animals shriek when they panic or are cornered. But the apex predators, the ones whose presence commands respect and universal fear, move with near absolute silence. A great cat does not issue a rallying cry before the hunt. It observes, it meticulously plans, it waits, utterly still. Quiet is not a vacuum of power. It is the highly concentrated presence of power that has zero need for self-advertisement. This is the exact, potent energy you are radiating now. You are no longer offering them the fuel of your transparency. You are finished with explaining yourself to the very people who reliably distorted and twisted your words. You are no longer carelessly revealing your tactical advantage by broadcasting your next step. This is precisely why they are restless, pacing mentally, filled with anxiety. They are genuinely unable to determine if your quiet means you have conclusively walked away from them, or if it means you have fully transitioned into an entirely new, unquantifiable version of yourself, a version they cannot possibly predict, influence, or successfully manipulate. Your quiet is not a void, it is densely packed. It is fully loaded with unarticulated decisions, strategies, and potential actions that you have elected to keep hidden. People can feel this powerful, weighty difference. They can distinctly sense the disparity between someone who is merely hiding out of fear and someone who is actively, fundamentally rebuilding from the ground up. You are the latter. You are in a profound state of self-assembly, carefully rationing your energy and locking your focus onto the few, critical things that genuinely matter. The universe has an observable tendency to elevate those individuals who stop pointlessly wasting themselves. When you consciously step back, the universe begins to exert a force that pushes you forward in ways others cannot yet comprehend. This explains why they are talking so much. This explains why they are desperately guessing at your situation. This is why their nerves are frayed and exposed. They have lost the ability to accurately measure your trajectory. They cannot tell if you have moved on, completely forgotten them, or simply outgrown their capacity to understand you. They have no idea if you are preparing to dramatically reappear stronger than ever, or if you are already 10 significant steps ahead of their current position. The version of you that is shrouded in mystery is, without a doubt, the version that people fear the most. This is because people only grow brave when they believe they can successfully predict your behavior. They become immediately careful and respectful when they cannot. Your silence is now functioning as a high-powered mirror, reflecting their own deepest insecurities and anxieties directly back onto them. They are not paralyzed by what you might say. They are terrorized by the potential of what you refuse to say. They are afraid of the capability you might wield next. They are afraid of the version of you that they can no longer accurately read or control. And the truth, which is quite simple, is this: when people lose their unfettered access to you, they fundamentally lose all control over your narrative. Your quiet withdrawal stripped that control away completely. The universe mandates balance. There is a necessary season for outspokenness and a necessary season for strategic withdrawal. You are now fully immersed in the season of power conservation, a time when you rigorously gather your resources, reestablish your focus, and meticulously observe events from an elevated, detached distance. The less you are willing to reveal, the greater the respect people will secretly grant to the immense possibility of what you are capable of doing when you finally choose to act again. They will never admit this vulnerability out loud, but your silence has truly humbled them. It has unambiguously demonstrated that they cannot treat you with casual disrespect and still confidently expect you to engage with them on their terms. It has made it clear that you are not a plaything, not an optional feature, and certainly not a simple riddle they can easily solve anymore. You have become the storm currently forming just out of their line of sight. You are the profound, quiet warning that precedes the ultimate impact. You are not to be trifled with, chosen one. And it is not because you are now yelling louder or fighting harder or constantly proving a point. You are not to be messed with because your absolute silence is now doing all the talking for you. It clearly signals to the entire world that you move with focused intention, that you do not expend your valuable voice needlessly, and that you are beyond playing trivial games. When the moment arrives for you to execute your next strategic move, they will feel the full, undeniable force of the hit long before they can even begin to comprehend its origin. Your silence is the advanced announcement. Your chosen distance is the unavoidable warning. And the deep, personal transformation you are currently undergoing is the foundational reason they are at last realizing who they should have never, ever taken for granted. And to the chosen one, truly, thank you for standing here. Your intentional silence has already dramatically changed the energetic environment around you, and the next steps will thoroughly explain precisely why this shift is generating so much panic in others. So, remain focused, because if you are genuinely embracing this profound, quiet power, failing to absorb even a single part of this complete analysis would be a monumental error. If the core of this message is connecting with your soul in the way I know it must, then drop the numbers 777 into the comments section now to confirm that you are ready to fully own this powerful new version of yourself, the version they can neither predict nor manipulate. If you are able to support the team that is driven to create this message with a super thanks, it directly sustains this critical mission. Whether it is the smallest contribution or a large one, every gesture of support enables us to push these essential truths out to reach more people who desperately need to hear them. Now let's go deeper into the analysis, one step at a time. Trust me when I say that if you truly are the person I believe you are, you will feel an undeniable pull to stay engaged until the very final word. Let's begin. Nothing generates more terror in a manipulator than the stark realization that the person they once easily controlled has ceased all predictable reaction. That is the gut punch they are feeling right now. They were convinced you were an easily maneuvered piece on their board. They genuinely believed a simple command or provocation would still elicit a response. But your silence, your quiet, self-assured withdrawal, has landed a blow far more damaging than any confrontation, because it exposes the core truth they have desperately tried to suppress. Their supposed power was completely hollow, and you have now reclaimed the source of it. Here is the bitter truth they hate above all others. They only appeared to possess strength when you were actively granting them access. They only felt a semblance of importance when you permitted them to get close enough to tug on those invisible emotional strings. They misinterpreted your essential patience for naive obedience. They mistook your genuine empathy for a profound weakness. They confused your attention for permission to manipulate. But the instant you intentionally pulled away, those fragile strings immediately snapped like cheap, brittle thread. Now they are left standing with their hands extended, clutching nothing but the fading memory of a control that has irrevocably vanished. Imagine a lifelong competitive gamer who has relied exclusively on cheat codes for years. They genuinely believe they are a tactical genius. They boast, they perform, they speak as if they are utterly unstoppable. Then, abruptly, a system update permanently removes all the cheat codes. Suddenly, every single move demands genuine effort. Suddenly, the player is forced to confront the harsh reality that they were not skilled. They were merely spoiled by artificial advantage. That is their exact state right now. They are not panicking because you changed. They are panicking because they are seeing the brutal truth about themselves for the very first time. Without you to reliably respond, react, defend, explain, or prove, they have no working material, nothing to leverage, nothing left to twist into their own narrative. The question you may be contemplating is, why does my silence actively bother them so intensely? The answer is elegantly simple. Individuals who thrive on control require a reaction to sustain their existence. Reaction is their essential oxygen supply. They desperately need the reassurance that they can still access your emotions. They need to know you still care enough to flinch under their gaze. Your silence is ruthlessly cutting off their air supply. They can no longer comfortably breathe in the warmth of your attention. They are slowly suffocating on the purposeful emptiness you left behind. Your absence was once an unimaginable concept to them. Now, your absence is the single thing they can think about. Here is a metaphor that strikes at their most vulnerable point. Consider a puppeteer who brags about the lifelike grace of their puppet's movements. But when the puppet suddenly steps off the stage and walks away entirely on its own accord, the puppeteer is immediately exposed as someone who never possessed any genuine talent. This is precisely what transpired the moment you ceased performing for their self-serving entertainment. You walked off the small stage they had constructed out of their own ego. Crucially, as you walked off, the spotlight unerringly followed you, not them. That is the core reason why their pride is so profoundly wounded. They are now scrambling, confused, agitated, and under immense self-imposed pressure. You took away their most cherished toy, your predictable reaction, and without that constant reaction, they are forced to finally face themselves. That is the very nightmare they have been actively running from for years. They are not the powerful mastermind they attempted to impersonate. They are merely a person who only felt significant when they were actively shrinking you down to size. Your walking away has forced them to confront their actual, much smaller magnitude. They will certainly attempt to lie their way out of this realization. They will pretend your silence has no effect. They will act as if they have effortlessly moved on, as if they are utterly unbothered, as if their life is proceeding seamlessly. But behind the privacy of their closed doors, they are meticulously replaying every single interaction. They are attempting to psycho-analyze words you spoke months ago. They are examining your past communications like forensic crime scene evidence. They are obsessively checking your presence, your energy, and the very depth of your silence. They are fixated because the one thing they cannot tolerate is not knowing where you stand. They lost their personal scriptwriter the day you went quiet, and now they are completely unable to act without you feeding them their lines. There is a twisted, yet profound, satisfaction in observing people who once confidently commanded a room suddenly descend into panic when the one quiet individual decides to stop participating. You were the emotional stability they secretly depended on, even as they aggressively pretended you were inconsequential. You were the very foundation they unconsciously leaned on, even while they were simultaneously attempting to destabilize yours. Now that you have unequivocally stepped away, the emotional ground beneath their feet is visibly cracking. Everything they constructed was precariously resting on your presence. Without you there to hold it up, nothing remains structurally sound. Think about a stage magician who depends entirely on misdirection. They rely on their ability to command precisely where the audience's attention is focused. But what is the result when the audience suddenly chooses to stop looking? The entire trick instantly falls apart. You stopped looking. You stepped back. You stopped willingly handing them the attention they required to maintain their fragile illusion of control. Your silence did not just rip the curtain down, it ended their entire act. Here is an undeniable fact that the chosen one within you must internalize. Your silence is inflicting more lasting damage to their ego than any verbal argument ever could. Arguments only provide them with fuel. Arguments only offer them a chance to twist and distort the context. Arguments only set up a battlefield where they can pretend they are emerging victorious, but silence, absolute silence, gives them nothing to work with. Silence forces them to cycle through every potential scenario in their mind, and inevitably realize that none of them conclude with them on top. Silence is the inescapable checkmate they completely failed to anticipate. That is why they are so intensely bothered. That is why they are profoundly restless. That is why your quietude has become more deafening to them than anything you uttered in the past year. They know you are no longer reacting, and that fact terrifies them. They know you have completely opted out of their game, and that destroys their control. They know that you are finally thinking for yourself, and that realization is what ultimately annihilates their sense of power. The truth is simple. The second an individual like you stops dancing to someone else's erratic rhythm, you finally begin to hear the powerful beat of your own. And once you have fully tuned into your own rhythm, no other person's beat will ever again sound authoritative. The universe always aligns itself with the individual who walks away from manipulation. The moment you intentionally severed their access, the energy shifted, not just around you, but fundamentally within you. You transformed from being reactive to being meticulously selective. You moved from being controlled to becoming completely self-directed. You evolved from being easily read like an open book to becoming a tightly sealed vault with no visible handle. And people are universally afraid of what they cannot open and understand. You are likely wondering, so what is the next step? What happens from here? The necessary answer is both simple and bracing. Allow them to fully process the silence that their actions demonstrably earned. Let them struggle with the confusion that their manipulation proactively created. Let them argue with the inaccurate version of you that they fabricated within their heads. Because the authentic you is already far out of their reach, you have successfully evolved beyond them. You are not waiting for closure. You are not holding your breath for an apology. You are not waiting to be understood on their terms. You have stepped into your full power by decisively stepping out of their toxic world. And here is the most satisfying truth of all. They are not attempting to reclaim the old version of you. They are desperately attempting to reclaim the version of themselves they falsely felt like when they still had unrestricted access to your energy. That version felt stronger, felt bigger, felt more inherently important. But that version was a mere fabrication. It only existed because they were actively draining life force from you. Now that the supply has been completely cut off, so has their false sense of power. You did not defeat them by engaging in battle. You defeated them by achieving the realization that they were never worth the fight in the first place. You walked away, you went silent, you completely unplugged from their broken game. And now they are left standing on that desolate, empty stage, holding useless strings that control nothing, staring at a spotlight that no longer shines for them. Your quiet wasn't a weakness, it was your ultimate evolution. And they are finally realizing that the one person they thought was theirs to control has transformed into the one person they should have never, under any circumstances, crossed. That is the essence of true, undeniable power, chosen one. They cannot make you dance anymore because you are no longer on their stage. You are now in your own arena, and the universe is unequivocally watching you rise.